So, neuropharmacology is the study of the effects of drugs on the nervous system. And this stems out of the study of receptors and the neurotransmitters. So, if we understand how a neurotransmitter affects a receptor and affects the body, we can potentially mimic this with drugs, either biological ingredients that we get out of plants or synthetic drugs that we make to resemble the neurotransmitters that we already have. So sympatho is talking about the sympathetic nervous system. Mimetic means to mimic. So this is something that is going to stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. That's that fight or flight reflex. So for example, something you might take is cold medicine. This is going to help aid in breathing and reduce swelling by simulating a situation where you would need to breathe efficiently. Sympathopatholytics, so again, sympatho is fight or flight, lytic is to break down. This is going to suppress the sympathetic nervous system. So for example, something like a beta blocker, this is a drug you would take if you have high blood pressure that's going to help reduce your blood pressure, and it does this by blocking the beta adrenergic receptors. A parasympatho, so again, this is the rest and digest. Mimetic means to mimic. So this would enhance the rest and digest effects. So for example, something you might take is pilocarpine, which is a drug for glaucoma, and this helps by reducing the pressure inside of the eye. Sigmund Freud actually predicted that we would eventually use biology and chemistry to deal with emotional issues. So this is another brand called Neuropharmacology, and this is the use of chemicals like drugs to help with emotional support or emotional issues. So a lot of times things like depression or anxiety aren't just because of the environment you're in, they can be from a chemical imbalance. And now we start to see the treatment of clinical depression with drugs and anxiety. So for example, Prozac is a common drug for anxiety and depression, and this is going to help prolong the mood elevating effects of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter in your brain that makes you feel good. And what it does is it blocks serotonin from being reuptaken, and so this allows for the serotonin to make you feel good longer. Amphetamines. This field has also given us insights into why some drugs are abused. So amphetamines, which are cocaine or speed, these resemble norepinephrine and dopamine. And norepinephrine and dopamine are neurotransmitters that produce an elevated mood. And these are chemically similar. And so what happens is this prevents the dopamine from being reuptaken, and it persists in the system longer, and then it makes you feel good. Unfortunately, what it does is it also prevents you from having excess stores of dopamine, and so it becomes harder and harder to get that good feeling because the drug is causing your dopamine levels to drop. Caffeine is a drug that is abused often. So caffeine is found in soda and coffee and chocolate. And caffeine actually competes with adenosine. So adenosine is found in DNA, RNA, ATP. That's what all of those A's are, is adenosine. And adenosine stimulates the body by releasing acetylcholine. So what happens is if you're feeling tired, what we think it actually happens is that the adenosine the breakdown of ATP and adenosine will inhibit the release of acetylcholine and make the body feel tired. But when you have caffeine can compete with adenosine, and this can stimulate the body. So take a moment and describe two drugs that have an effect on the nervous system and what their effect is.